Good evening, everyone. My name's Chris Barnes, and I'm Professor of Business Management here at Lakeland. And I'd like to welcome everyone and thank you all for coming out to the Dworkin and Bernstein Management Lecture Series at Lakeland Community College. This series is brought to you through an endowment through the Dworkin and Bernstein Law Firm in Painesville and downtown Cleveland. And tonight we have the wonderful opportunity to have Howard Rabb, managing partner of Dworkin and Bernstein. He's graciously come out to speak to us for just a couple of minutes, kind of highlighting the fact that this is the 50th anniversary of Lakeland. This program has almost one of the longest running programs at Lakeland since 1976. So if we can ask Howard to come on up, we'd really appreciate it.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Dworkin Bernstein Management Series lecture. At Dworkin and Bernstein, we're really proud to have sponsored this event. You can see from the list of speakers that they've been running prior to the program that some very good, very well-known speakers have come here and spoken to some terrific people like you and told you about what's different management issues. So I think it's worked well for the college, and we're very proud of that. I'm very proud of this school. 50 years, just fantastic. And tonight you're going to hear from the guy who's leading that effort. And I'm looking forward to another 50 years. I've been watching it over the last 10, 15, 20 years myself. And now as a board member, I'm proud of what's happening here, driving in and seeing all these fantastic improvements that are evidently going to be amazing. And I can't wait to see the inside and see what they look like when they're done. So again, looking forward to another 50 years. I hope you enjoy the management series tonight and your speaker. And I want to thank Chris Barnes and your leader Morris Beveridge for leading fantastic school to fantastic places.
Thank you very much. As we said last week, or 2 weeks ago when our other program was running, 2017 is the 50th anniversary of Lakeland. And as part of that celebration, the Dworkin and Bernstein Management Lecture Series is celebrating too by having two of our alumni Hall of Fame people come and speak here. Last time was Jesse Baginski from Leadership Lake County, and tonight we're going to be hearing from Dr. Morris Beveridge, president of Lakeland Community College. Dr. Beveridge is the 5th president of Lakeland, and this is his 16th year as president. He previously served as Lakeland's CFO and treasurer for 12 years. Prior to joining Lakeland, Dr. Beveridge was the Director of Finance for the City of Mentor, an auditor for Arthur Andersen Company in Cleveland, and a manager of finance at Freedon Corporation. He is also past vice chair of the governing board of the Ohio Association of Community Colleges. His services at the state and national level include representing community colleges in Ohio on policy-related committees, as well as testifying before legislative hearings on issues related to higher education. Dr. Beveridge holds a Doctor of Management degree from Case Western Reserve University's Weatherhead School of Management in Cleveland, a master's degree in business administration, and a Bachelor of Science from Lake Erie College in Painesville, and an Associate of Arts degree from right here at Lakeland. He was also a licensed CPA in the state of Ohio. Dr. Beveridge lives with his wife Connie in Mentor. They have 3 grown children and 5 grandchildren. Please help me to welcome Dr. Morris Beveridge, president of Lakeland Community College.
Good evening. Oh, the lights were up right. I thought, boy, everybody got out of here. I am so excited to be here. Are you? You ever had days where you get up in the morning, you look in the mirror and you say, "Good morning, gorgeous. Let's go do this." Have you ever had those days? You ever had those days when you get up in the morning and you look in the mirror and you say, "You again?" So that was the way it was for me. This morning I got up and said, "You again?" I live with me all the time. Everything is about me for me. And I thought, this is really going to be boring if all I do is sit up here and talk about, being a chubby little kid from Kirtland who wore husky pants from Bargain Fair. And if you do all the things that I do, then maybe someday if you want to be president of a college, you could become president of a college. Do we have any husky wearing Bargain Fair jeans folks here? Assuming that was a small audience, what I thought would be better would be, rather than you hearing about me, it might be more interesting for me to hear about you. And so tonight, I really don't have a big role here, but you do. We're going to get into that in just a moment. Let me first see if I can actually, voila, how about that? That's me on the left saying hello. So, my background, as Chris shared with you, is from a business background. Now, this is a management lecture series. There's a difference between business and management. Are you aware of that? What's the study of business about? Anybody want to guess? At the end of the day? Systems. We're going to study your payroll system, we're going to study your human resources system, the production system, the shipping system, invoicing, accounts receivable, cash flow, collection, etc., etc. Do you know what the study of management is about? You. It's about the study of people. So I have all kinds of books outside my office from my doctoral study in management. And if I were to line them up on this stage up here, it would probably take about a quarter to a third of this stage to line up all of the books that I had to read when I was in a doctoral program in management. I'm going to give you the secret in 3 little words to how to be a successful manager and leader. Fair enough? Wait, how many are excited to be here? Okay. I got 6 people. That's great. So what I want to focus on is the differences between good managers and bad managers, good leaders and bad leaders, good bosses and bad bosses. And so we want to do a quick little exercise with you. And this is an exercise that I've done with tons of groups that I've presented to in the past. And it's always been very informative, and I hope that you find it interesting, but it does require your participation, okay? So here's what we're going to do. I'd like the 2 of you. Can you stand up? Okay, young lady, would you raise your hand? Yes, you. You're the one standing. Thank you. And all the people to her right, raise your hands. You're on her team. Yeah. Trust me, you got the better group, okay? I'm telling you. Young man, would you raise your hand? Everyone to the left of him, raise your left hand. It's going to be close. Now here's what I'd like you to do. Ready? What's your name?
Delaney.
I heard it the first time. I wanted you to say it again. Delaney? Arthur. Okay, everybody who's on Delaney's side, I want you to think about a retail experience that was really, really good. Okay? And I want you to think about words that describe the person that you were working with. Everybody on Arthur's side, I want you to think about a good boss or a good leader or a community, a pastor, whatever. Somebody who was really good at what they did. And I want you to think about words that describe them. All right? So let's do Delaney's side first. Just yell out words. Helpful. Huh? Empathetic. Hardworking. Informative. Patient. Humble. Caring. Uplifting. Passionate. Arthur's side. Good boss. Words. Huh? Fair. Okay. Big heart, decisive, insightful, not rude, encouraging, fun, charismatic. You with me? Now, because of time, because Chris kept saying, at 7:15 we're walking out of here whether you're finished or not, I'm going to move this along. And so, do these words capture the words that you were saying? This is just from another group, but I want to make sure that you're comfortable that these words capture basically the experiences that you had in describing a good retail experience or a good boss. Now, here's the exercise here, and we're not going to spend much time on it here because we're not here to talk about this, but you'll notice that some of the words are highlighted and underlined. Those have to do with their cognitive capacities. The other words have to do with their emotional capacities, their ability to be engaging with an individual. So that's just an interesting aside. Now, let's do the opposite. Let's think about that bad retail experience, or that bad job that you had lived through, or that bad leader that you had to work with. Delaney, is that your name? Yeah. Still? Delaney's side. Words to describe that bad retail experience. Lazy. Rude. Huh? Unworthy. Unapproachable. Sarcastic. Ignorant. Pushy. Good. The bad boss. Bully. Rude. Huh? I still didn't hear it. One more time. Oh, picked favors. Gotcha. Favorites, right. What else? Huh? Unethical. Lazy. Crazy. Hopefully she's not talking about me. Again, does it look familiar? Again, notice that the actual cognitive capacity of the individual you're talking about are typically very few words that come to mind. What come to mind are the emotional words, the words that have a real deep impact for you. So we want to take this exercise and take it one more step. Ready? How did it make you feel? Okay? So, how does the good make you feel? Retail? How did you feel in that experience? Satisfied? Thankful? Happy? Respectful? Valued? Worthy, this side? Relaxed? Respected? Appreciated? Relieved? Happy? Now, watch what happens here. A good boss or good retail experience, some of the feelings that you talked about were actually describing them, but the majority of them were describing you. Isn't that interesting? Good bosses, good retail experiences, good leader in whatever role, position they might hold, they're about you, building you up. Anybody guess what happens with the bad? Let's try and see. How'd you feel about this? Anybody? Frustrated. Angry. Distressed. Unsatisfied. Unappreciated. Cheated. Mad. Defeated. Discouraged. Watch what happens. When you've got a bad boss, the feelings that they instill in you are about them, trying to make themselves feel better about themselves. They aren't about you. You want to be a good manager? You want to be a good leader? You want to be a good boss? What's the answer? Be about the other person, right? Delaney, Arthur, thank you. How many felt Delaney won? Oh, yeah. How many felt Arthur won? Arthur won? Never saw that coming. So, I smile and nod while my boss gives me constructive criticism, but all I'm really doing is thinking about punching him in the throat. So, even though I'm standing up here supposedly talking about what it takes to be a good boss or a good leader, it's sometimes insightful to share stories about when I wasn't a good boss or a good leader. So I will share with you a quick story about when I wasn't a good boss one time. I was the director of finance at the city of Mentor. I had a number of people who worked for me, about 11 or 12 folks who were in the department. And we had this, what we called the bullpen area, which was where a lot of the clerical work was being done. And so we had someone in charge of payroll, someone in charge of invoices, someone in charge of the general ledger. We had about 5 or 6 people out there. And these folks did a great job. But they had been doing the same job for about 10 years. And, you know, one of the things that you learn, I'm a recovering accountant, in case you don't know that. I was a CPA and all that. And so one of the things that they teach you in accounting is if you don't have multiple people trained to do different jobs, you're putting your business system at risk. And so therefore, you know, I wanted to make sure that folks were cross-trained. And so I kept telling them, hey, you know, buddy up with someone and teach the other person how to do your job. And I just never got satisfied that this was happening. So one day I became frustrated. And I said, okay, here's the deal. Everybody stand up. So 6 people stood up. And I said, move to the desk to your left. And they all moved over one desk. Problem solved, right? Sit down and now do that job. Absolute disaster. Absolute disaster. You know, one of the things that I never realized until many years later, and I went back and I apologized to all of these folks, they took tremendous pride in what they did. They came to work wanting to do a great job. And what I did was I took away their dignity. What I said to them is, you're nothing more than a piece of furniture to me. So move over. I'm going to move the furniture over here, and then that piece of furniture is going to do the job. It was a horrible idea. What was I missing in that? I needed people to be cross-trained. I needed them to do something that they weren't willing to do or able to do on their own. And so therefore, I unilaterally made a decision without talking to them, without getting their feedback. Remember about making other people successful? I didn't make them successful, and I certainly didn't make myself successful. So all the best intentions can result in quite a lot of disaster if you're not careful. So this is the summary of all of those books that I read for 3 years in my doctoral program. If you want to be a great leader and a great manager and a great boss, if you want to progress in an organization, all you have to do is make other people successful. They will help you rise through an organization. But if you don't, if you're all about yourself, then you know what's going to happen. Sooner or later, they will come back and they will get you. So empathy through vulnerability. So what I want to stress to you is before you can ask someone else to be vulnerable, you have to be vulnerable yourself. Okay? So in terms of empathy, before you can start asking, well, what do you think about this or what do you think about that, you've got to be the first one to take on some risk. You've got to be open to the uncertainty, to the risk, and to the emotional exposure that you're willing to ask of others. So empathy is about putting yourself in someone else's shoes, empathy for others, but also empathy for yourself. Now, why vulnerability? Well, let's look at two examples. The first one is Kodak. Anybody remember Kodak? What did Kodak make primarily? Cameras. What kind of cameras? Huh? Film. Film cameras. What's the opposite now of film cameras? Digital. Why did Kodak go under? Because of digital cameras. They did not make the transition. Who invented the digital camera? Kodak. Huh? Yeah, 1975, Kodak invented the digital camera. But Kodak didn't see itself in the digital camera business. They saw themselves in the film camera business. And so they held on to that, and they tried everything to compete and get rid of digital cameras. They knew about it, but they just weren't willing to make that transition. So when you're vulnerable, you sometimes are not willing to take risks. And if you're not willing to take risks, you're going to find yourself at times no longer relevant. Let's talk about Lakeland, for example. Anybody who's come in from 306 sees this big building underway. Everybody has anyone not seen that? I mean, you sort of can't miss it. Hopefully you do miss it, but so how did that building come about? Well, we, the college, did a lot of work on studying what were the workforce needs, what programs do we need to begin offering that we don't have capacity for, what are employers looking for, all of these sorts of things. And we identified that unlike historically, where the state would predominantly provide the funding for capital improvements, for adding buildings, the state was no longer doing that. And they hadn't been doing it for probably 10 or 15 years. Instead, every 2 years, Lakeland would get about $3.5 to $4 million. Now we determined that to really do this right, we needed probably about $40 or $50 million. If we were to wait on the historical solution, you would have been waiting 20 years to see a building go forward, which means it probably wouldn't go forward. And so we, the board, folks in the administration, the faculty, and even students, put together a plan to go on a ballot and ask the residents, the citizens of Lake County, would you help us construct something for our future? And they did. And they passed the first bond levy issue in the state of Ohio for a college or university. Were we at risk? Absolutely. Were we vulnerable? You bet. If it failed, we had to start all over. So the willingness to accept uncertainty, to accept vulnerability, and then to embrace risk and say, look, we know this has got some inherent challenges to it, but this is what we need to do. Had Kodak said in 1975, this digital camera, we don't know where it's going, but we think it can go somewhere, so we don't want to lose track of that. We're going to keep making film, but by golly, we got to keep an eye on this digital. Had they done that, they would today be the leader in digital cameras. Not irrelevant. So, empathy, understanding how their customers use things, understanding how our students needed the future to be ready for them, understanding how our community, our workforce, our employers were looking to us to solve the problems, we decided to take some risks. So being vulnerable enough to look inward is always more challenging. And I love this picture. Can you see that picture? The guy taking a picture of himself in a mirror. So now it's your turn. Everybody get a piece of paper when you came in? See the side that looks like this? Everybody have that? Anybody need a piece of paper? All right, here's what I'd like you to do. And we're only going to give you 5 minutes to do this because we've got to move quickly. First, circle 5 of your strengths. Then, star 3 things that you want to improve. So 5 strengths plus 3 other things that you want to improve, and write why at the bottom you've selected those. Okay? So you in relation to others. Empathy enables you to sit with others and view the world through their lens. Have you ever watched cable TV today and you turn on a channel whose political views are the exact opposite of yours, and you cannot understand how the person that's speaking on this cable channel could possibly believe what they're saying? You ever had that experience? Have you ever tried to sit and think, what is it that they're trying to say? What am I not getting here? What am I not catching? Not to suggest that you're wrong and they're right, but rather to have the ability to sit with others and view the world through their lens. If you're able to do that, that makes you a lot more effective. Dr. Brené Brown has a book, Daring Greatly. I would have brought it with me, but I think I have it at home. I would encourage you to consider it. And in there she has this quote: "I define a leader as anyone who holds him or herself responsible or accountable for finding potential in people or processes." So being a leader, again, is about others. Leadership is about relationships. And to be in a relationship with anyone is to make yourself vulnerable. Now, why did I ask for a retail experience? Let me just share you a quick story. This goes back a number of years ago. Any Browns fans in the audience? The 6 of you who are left. I mean, it's been a struggle, right? So I grew up as a Browns fan. I've always been a Browns fan. No matter how many times on Sundays I say, I will not watch them again, I wind up watching them. But you remember the year we drafted Kellen Winslow Jr.? And you remember who the Pittsburgh Steelers drafted in that same draft? Ben Roethlisberger. So I went to some friends and we had played some cards and watched the Browns' final preseason game. And on the way home, I remembered that I had to stop at Walgreens, which is right at the corner of 20 and Chillicothe Road, I think it is. I needed to just to pick up a couple things, but I was in a hurry because the next morning I had to give a presentation and I had to get ready for it. So I had a lot of work to do that evening. I walked into Walgreens and there was nobody standing at the counter. I walked down the aisle, I grabbed the one thing that I needed, and I started to walk back to check out. And just as I got near the counter, I thought, oh, I needed one more thing. And so I went back and got a second thing. Whatever the second thing was. Now, when I turned the corner, 3 people were in line. 40 seconds ago, there was nobody in line. Now 3 people are in line. It's okay. I get in line, I'm number 4. Number 1 puts her stuff on the counter. And this gentle lady behind the counter says, oh, I see you're buying some 35 millimeter film. She said, yeah. She says, well, I don't know if you're aware of this, but we have a special going where you can pay the same amount as the film, but we give you a 35 millimeter camera, and then going forward, all you pay for is the processing. She says, really? The lady behind the counter says, yeah. And she said, well, where are these? And she says, they're over there in that bin. She says, well, do you mind if I go and get one of those cameras? Why, no, go ahead. And I'm like, seriously? So she leaves her stuff there. She walks over to the bin. And this bin has about 200 of these cameras. They're all exactly the same camera. She's digging through. Apparently they're better on the bottom. So she gets one. She picks it up. She brings it over. Sets it on the counter. Completes her order. Thanks the clerk. Walks out. Now, number 2 becomes number 1, number 3 becomes number 2, and I become number 3. About this point, I'm starting to get a little hungry and a little snackish, and so I start eating these bun maple things with the peanuts. And I mean, by the time I do finally get up there, my stomach's killing me. I feel like crap. Number 2, who's now number 1, puts his stuff on the counter and says to the clerk, tell me more about those cameras. Well, if you buy the camera today, you go, and they're in that thing. Yeah, they're in that. Do you mind if I go get them? No, not at all. And he goes over and does the exact same thing, because obviously they're fresher at the bottom, gets his camera, brings it back over, sets it on the counter, completes his transaction, thanks the clerk, and walks out. Now, number 2 becomes number 1, and I become number 2. I've got multiple wrappers in the thing with me now. I'm thinking to myself, you ask about that camera, it's going to be a price to be paid. Instead, she starts this conversation with number 1, the current number 1, and they transact their business. By the grace of the gods, he didn't ask about the camera. He thanks her, and then he moves on. At this point, I'm probably steaming out of the top of my head. What started out as a minimum or maximum minute and a half transaction has now turned into about 8 or 9 minutes. So I get to the front and I put my 2 things and my empty wrappers on the counter. And the lady looks at me and she says, are you a Browns fan? I said, yeah, I'm a Browns fan. She says, well, do you know if they won today? Yeah, they won. She says, I love the Browns. I've always followed the Browns. She says, unfortunately, I was listening to them in my car during my lunch break, but I couldn't stay and hear how they did, so I wasn't able to tell who won. Yeah, they won. They did okay. How's that new guy doing? The new tight end? Yeah, Kellen Winslow Jr. Yeah, that's the guy. How's he doing? Do you think he's going to be good? I think he's got some potential. He's but this and that and the other, blah, blah, blah. Next thing I know, I'm engaged in this conversation with this lady. I'm not in a good mood. And yet I'm standing there talking about the Browns like she's my long-lost neighbor or something. So we finally wrap up our transaction, and as she's handing me the bag, she says, we have the best customers at this Walgreens. I said, really? She goes, oh yeah, I've gone to other Walgreens. I've stood around and I've watched the customers at these other Walgreens. Our Walgreens are the best. I said, well, we're in a nice neighborhood. Maybe it has to do with the neighbors that we have around here, the community that we serve. No. I've gone to good communities too. Our customers are the best. So, well, that's good to hear. I'm glad to hear that you have that. And so I picked up my bag and I started to walk out. And when I got to the door, it occurred to me, I wasn't a good customer when I came into Walgreens. I wasn't a good customer when I got in line. She made me a good customer. This little lady standing in a 2-foot by 2-foot square all day, every day, was the best that she could be, and she was the best at creating good customers out of bad customers. To this day, I regret not going back to that stupid camera bin, buying a camera, taking a picture of her, and sending it to the CEO of Walgreens and say, package this. She gets it. She knows what it's about. I don't know if she has a college education. She was the leader of that 2-foot by 2-foot square. And she impacted me to the point that I have shared this story with hundreds of people. Now, here's what we'd like you to do next. Flip that card over. Think about you with others. Think about the different versions of you in these settings. How are you different? How are you the same? How does your role impact your behavior? So take 5 minutes and fill that out real quick. Here's an example of mine. I actually did this exercise so that I knew what I was asking you to do. Now, why are we asking you to do this? Are you the same in all roles? How are you different in one role versus the other? Huh? With different people, you react differently. Right? Among other things. Your comfort level. What surprised you in this exercise, if anything? Had you really thought about those differences before? Did anyone have an aha moment? That you want to share? It's tough to share, isn't it? Especially in an audience like this. All right, let's move on. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do is pick a focus. So pick either work, school, or play, and focus in on one of them. Look for the opportunities that this allows us and generate one idea. So here's an example of mine. For example, community members, I selected work. What do they need? They need to learn how Lakeland can better serve them. Which of my strengths can help them be successful and how? I can be kind of creative, and so therefore turning their ideas into actions helps them accomplish what their needs might be. And you're free to read the other two. Then the idea that I generated down below, I'll get to in a moment here. I'll let you focus on this first. So, better understanding your strengths, acknowledging to yourself areas that could use some improvement, will enable you to better help someone else. This exercise sort of puts you in that role of saying, what are my strengths and how can I use those to help someone else meet their needs? So focus on that bottom question now. Generate one idea. I can use my strength of to meet the needs of, by, and what's your idea? Just one idea. One thought. Who has an idea you'd like to share?
can use my strength of gratitude to meet the needs of my professors by letting them know how much I appreciate them.
I can meet the needs of my professors through gratitude, letting them know how much I appreciate them. Do you think teachers like to hear that? Yeah. Yeah. What else? Who else has a good idea? Okay.
Future planning to meet the needs of my wife by communication.
Oh, trust me. When you figure that one out, let me know, because she's over there. Third one.
I can use my strength of kindness to meet needs of my coworkers by saying nice words, helping them, loving each other.
Do you do that already?
Yeah.
I sort of thought so. Do you see how easy this is, though, to help someone else? And you know what happens at the end of the day? You feel better. You know what else happens? You have an ally. You have somebody who's going to stand behind you and let you know, hey, wait a second, you're getting in trouble here. Slow down, calm down. I wish we had 5 hours to do this. I mean, these exercises are great fun. I encourage you to take them home and think about them. You want other copies? I think we've got extras in the back. Have others fill them out. Have others fill them out about you. What do they see as your strengths? What do they see as your areas of opportunity for improvement? And what do they see as ideas that you've manifested that have impacted them? Those are great conversations to have. So, at Lakeland, we make others successful. So we asked some of our faculty members to submit some names, and we have 4 names of people that we would like to recognize for their leadership in their classroom. Alyssa Ackley. Alyssa, where are you? Could you stand up? I don't want to embarrass you. Alyssa shows her leadership on group projects. She has taken the lead on the research and brings the group together to work well on their tasks. She makes all of the students feel connected in the team. Lisa, would you come up and accept a reward from me? Yeah, give it up.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Congratulations. Christine Nafelt. Where's Christine? There she is in the back. Christine offers to help her classmates with study skills, has created an informal study group, and is regularly helping them to find access to online materials. Christine, would you come forward and accept your reward? Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Next, Liz Sleek. Where's Liz? There she is. Liz is a positive role model by showing how to be professional in the workplace through her classroom behavior and contributions to the discussions on professionalism. Think that isn't powerful? Come on up. Congratulations. And our final recipient was not able to be here this evening because she had to cover for someone else who was not able to make it into work today. But we're going to recognize her nonetheless. Hannah Stankus is a great spark to have in a class. As a guest speaker in a first-year experience class, she connected with the students and helped them understand how to be successful. So Connie, you want to come up and accept hers? And please let her know how thankful we are. Oh no, is it contagious?
No.
Well, here, I'll take a chance. There you go. What a risk taker I am. So, that's pretty much it. This is how simple it is. Make others successful, and I guarantee you, you will be successful in whatever it is you try to do. But in preparing and thinking about this management lecture series, I thought, why end tonight? Let's continue on. And especially for those of you who are here this evening, this link is available for you to recognize others. So it's making others shine, gives you an opportunity to nominate your peer. Let's see if this works. Ooh, stand by. This is exciting. There you have it. So if you click on this link or put this link in, you will be able to nominate others, people that you know, people that you appreciate, and you can let them know how much you appreciate them, and they will then be in line for an award similar to what we gave out this evening. That concludes my prepared remarks, and I've left a few minutes for any questions that you might have. Any questions? What are some of the places that I need improvement? Yeah. Hearing. I've always had a challenge of listening without speaking, thinking that I know where someone's going and then try to anticipate my answer without sitting and really listening to what they're saying. That's probably been one of the biggest challenges that I've had to overcome. Good question. What's yours?
I would say I kind of lack compassion.
You lack compassion?
Very, just is what it is.
Yeah.
So I
Oh,
definitely need to work on that.
yeah, good for you. Other questions? Really? Was it the dog I was carrying? Well, that's good input and feedback for me. It's something I need to hear. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I don't want to punch you in the throat. Other questions? Well, I actually do presentations all over the country. Matter of fact, next weekend I'm in Philadelphia presenting on emotional intelligence and behavior style profiles. So I've been doing these kinds of presentations for a long time. This one is unique to tonight. We crafted, with the help of Leah and Pam, Leah's back there and Pam's over there, and a lady named Jill from New York, we actually crafted this based on what we wanted, what we thought you would most benefit from. So I didn't know what to expect because I'd never done it before. So thank you for helping me by staying awake. Other questions? Yeah, it's so hard to choose. I think I'm, for an accountant, I think I can be pretty creative. Yeah. As much as the accountants tried to beat it out of me. I'll tell you one that I'm really most proud of. When I was at the City of Mentor, we and a number of other cities had to build a new accounting system. I came up with the idea of 4 cities going together and sharing one computer system. Now that happens all the time today, but this is 30-some years ago. But the key to that was the land speed of the phone connections was not very fast, and we had way too much data. But cable TV was just coming into existence at that point, and all of the cities had a cable contract with the same provider, Continental Cable. And we looked at our contract, and Continental Cable had agreed to transmit data both ways. They didn't know that. But we worked with them, and we actually got them to transmit data across cable lines at speeds well in excess of telephone speeds. And so that was an example of a creative solution that nobody had ever done before. But the four cities, we worked together and made it happen. I always wanted to be a park ranger. But I grew up with Lassie and, riflemen and all that sort of stuff. I think I'm doing what I want to do, though, which is really fortunate, right? Yeah. No. I have a long way to go. And that's a good thing. It makes me, when I get up in the morning and look and say, you again, say, but this is all I got to work with. So let's go do it. I've been asked that question a lot, and I don't have the answer. I knew I was going to go to college, but I never knew why. My parents didn't go to college. My mother never finished high school. And yet, for some reason, I always knew that I was going to go. And I think it was because I didn't know that I could do it. Really, that's why I went for my doctorate. I didn't think I could do it. I had to prove to myself that I could do it. I almost didn't. I flunked my final paper in one of my classes in the first semester. So the advisor came and met with me and said, we're not sure you're going to make it. Well, let me tell you another story. They only accepted 15 people in that class that year at Case. I was number 16. I didn't make the first cut. Somebody dropped out for health reasons, and I was accepted in. And so at the end of that first semester, when I was told, we're not sure you're going to make it, frankly, I got ticked off. And I said, okay, you bounce me out of here, it's going to be on my terms, not yours. And it turned my attitude around such that I went out to prove to everybody else, including myself, that I could do this. And as it turns out, I try not to be a proud person, but as it turns out, I was one of 3 people out of 15 who finished on time. I was too dumb to know I couldn't. Other questions? These are tough questions. I should have studied harder. Folks, good luck.